The Dark and the Wicked. Synopsis. The Dark and the Wicked is a supernatural horror film about the Strakers, a strange Texas family battling what appears to be a demon that has attacked them and their home. The film follows siblings Louise and Michael as they experience horribly unexplainable events on their parents' farm. The siblings have come to help their mother, who has been caring for their ailing, bedridden father for a long time without their help. She warns them to leave, but they refuse. The siblings have been estranged from their parents for some time and struggle with guilt, especially now that their father is on his deathbed. This guilt is what originally compels them to ignore their mother's warnings. However, as time passes, tragedies and supernatural events occur. Plot. Louise and Michael are siblings who return to their family farm in Texas when their father's illness worsens, leaving him bedridden and uncommunicative in the care of his wife and a nurse. Their mother seems distraught and expresses her desire for her children to leave. At night, she hangs herself in the barn after cutting her fingers in the kitchen. This scene is quite terrifying, not because she cuts off her fingers, but because you know she's going to cut them off, and for 2 minutes you're on tenterhooks until she cuts them off. As time passes, Louise and Michael begin to understand what happened to their mother. The nurse confides that she heard her whisper to their father, but it seemed as if she wasn't speaking to him, but to another presence. As they struggle to find answers to their mother's suicide, the siblings find her diary. In it, she describes a demon trying to steal her husband's soul. She writes that this demon is everywhere and that she wants to die. Although the diary explains their mother's suicide, the siblings still don't want to believe it had anything to do with the supernatural. At their mother's funeral, Louise and Michael meet Father Thorne, a priest who claims to have known their mother. Later that evening, Father Thorne appears at the farmhouse, calling to them from outside, before vanishing before their eyes. Meanwhile, Charlie, a ranch hand living on nearby land in his RV, witnesses a vision of what appears to be Louise, speaking indistinctly and repeatedly cutting herself with a kitchen knife. The entity drives a distraught Charlie to shoot himself in the head with his shotgun. Louise is subsequently unable to reach Charlie by phone, unaware that he is dead. Louise calls the phone number Father Thorne gave her to ask why he visited the farm the night before. The man who answers claims to have never met her and says he lives in Chicago and has never been to Texas. Concerned for their father's safety, the siblings call a doctor for a house call and request that he be transported to a hospital. The doctor determines that their father's condition is grave and that he is on his deathbed. He tells the siblings that he cannot take him to a hospital, as transporting him could cause him to die en route. At the farm, Louise and Michael discover that their large herd of goats has been brutally slaughtered. The two light a bonfire to dispose of the numerous animal carcasses. That night, Michael is approached in the barn by an apparition of his naked mother, who disappears when she approaches him. Later, as Louise lies in bed next to her father, she has a nightmare in which the entity attempts to possess her, but she manages to resist, before witnessing her father levitating against the ceiling. In the morning, Charlie's granddaughter arrives at the farmhouse and informs Louise that she committed suicide 2 days earlier. The girl's sad demeanor soon turns malevolent, and Louise realizes that she is actually the entity taking the form of Charlie's granddaughter. She, too, disappears before Louise's eyes. The nurse arrives moments later to care for Louise and Michael's father. Meanwhile, Louise discovers that Michael has fled the farmhouse to return to his wife and daughters, leaving her behind. Michael calls Louise from his cell phone and tells her that she should leave as well. Moments later, the nurse, possessed by the entity, begins stabbing herself with a pair of knitting needles, attacking Louise in the process, before stabbing herself in the eyes and killing herself. Michael arrives home to find the bodies of his daughters and wife in the kitchen, in what appears to have been a murder-suicide. A distraught Michael slits his own throat and, moments later, notices that the bodies of his wife and daughters are gone. He realizes the entity has tricked him when his wife and daughters enter the house moments later and find him bleeding to death. After being attacked by the nurse and Michael's death, Louise wakes up from being unconscious to the sound of the phone ringing, and finally realizes she has to leave, unaware that it's too late. She apologizes to her father, who now appears to be dying, and leaves. She falls down the stairs, and when she hears him gasping and coughing, she can't stand it and turns back. She goes back inside and tells her father that she won't leave him. Louise hears the devil imitating Michael's voice, pleading for help, and screams at him in defiance. The house creaks as Louise hugs her father in his final moments. As he draws his last breath, she begs him not to leave her and then cries in sadness. A moment later, she is distracted by her mother's voice singing in the other room. Just as she turns to her father, the devil grabs her, and she screams. And so the film ends, with the devil's apparent claim on Louise's life or soul. Comments. The element that needs the most explanation is the devil who has targeted the Straker family and their home. In the film, the devil's origin is never mentioned, nor is the reason for his appearance given. The priest and the nurse allude in some way to the idea that the devil may have tried the father's soul due to his estrangement from his children. However, this idea is not fully explored, either to enhance the film's sense of mystery or simply to clarify something. A film description explains that Satan is more like what could be considered a demon or a poltergeist due to his behavior. He likes to make objects move around the house and creates apparitions to frighten and torture his victims. Whenever the devil is visible in the film, he has a very human-like form and can apparently take the form of other people. However, unlike a poltergeist, it can control other people, as evidenced by the nurse's death. While the demonic creature's intentions appear to be waiting for the father to die, it is fully capable of being very active, killing as many people as possible, even friends and acquaintances of the family. If the demon wants the father's soul, it is unclear why it needs to torture everyone else. The demon seems to thirst for souls that are about to leave the world of the living. It gains additional benefits by making life unbearable for those nearby. According to the mother's diary, the demon simply wants the father's soul and makes him want to die. The logic behind this is completely hidden in the film, leaving speculation as the only way to explain it. The demon's origins and religious affiliations are also unclear, making it one of the many horror movie creatures that are never fully explained. Even the devil's name is omitted, which is relatively unusual in supernatural horror films that feature devils and demons. The only time the devil is mentioned is in the mother's diary, although the devil could have been used as a generic name, for lack of a better term. Thanks for watching, bye.